I've been told I don't need the microphone. But... Okay, climb on up, panelists. We'll see who's got sore quads. Good evening, everybody. I'm Andy Jones-Wilkins, and I'm thrilled to be here this evening. I'm so glad so many of you come out to what I think is our 5th Western States Veterans Panel. The goal this evening is to share with all of you some advice and comments and take your questions on the Western States 100, what it means to run it, be a participant in it, be a pacer, a crew, a person who is part of this event that I, for one, and I know many part of the organization feel is an extraordinary event. I want to start with a couple of thank yous. I first want to thank our race director, Craig Thornley, who's right back there. Craig has done extraordinary things for Western States in his 2-year tenure as race director, and we have many, many exciting things to come, most immediately Saturday's race. So thank you so much, Craig, and be sure you give him your thanks after crossing the finish line on Saturday or Sunday as well. Also, John Trent, president of the Western States Board, back there in the back. John and the Board of Trustees steward this race, have stewarded this race for over 4 decades, and it's an extraordinary event and an extraordinary undertaking that that entire volunteer board does to make sure that this is the premier 100-mile endurance run in the country. So John and the other trustees who are here, thank you so much for all that you do for this extraordinary event. You know, we have, to my left, your right, a wonderful group of veterans, and thank you all for agreeing to serve on the panel this evening. There are, by my calculation, over 30 Western States finishes assembled in the group, and well over 150 100-mile finishes in this group. So you're going to get some words of wisdom and words of advice this evening that I think will be extremely meaningful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start and ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves, tell us who they are, where they're from, how many times they've been here to Squaw and Auburn, and how many times they've run this 100-mile distance. And we'll start on this side. Karl?
Karl Meltzer, ultra runner. So it's my second time at Western States. I was here in 2008 when the fires were here, so obviously we didn't run. But last year I came in off the couch, finished the race, came in 11th, so now I'm back. And I was chipped, so I was 10th now. Been running ultra since 1996. Finished 6,300 milers, 136. So I'm here just to have fun, basically. Such a great, iconic event, too. It's only the second time I've been here, and I've always run a lot of other races, but it's really cool to be here at Western because, you know, this really is the biggest race in the U.S. and maybe the world, you know, and competitive-wise. So, you know, it's just fun to be here, and fun to talk to you guys. If you have any funny questions, I might be able to answer for you. You know, it's cool. But it's a great, iconic race. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks, Karl. Topher?
So I'm Topher Gaylord. I hail from the Marin County area now. I am lining up for my 9th start at Western States and going for my 7th finish. So I've got experience covering the distance from here, Squaw Valley to Auburn, 6 times, going for the 7th finish, but also I think I can shed some light on what happens when it goes wrong at Western States, and how much you can get back when it does go wrong. I've run over 25 100-mile races around the world. I spent nearly a decade in Europe, running a number of different races there. I fell in love with another race in Europe called the UTMB. It's the Tour de Mont Blanc race, and now that I'm back in California, I've rejoin my love affair with Western States. And this is a very special race. Whether you're going for a top 10 finish, as Karl mentioned, it's one of the most competitive races in the world, period, at the distance. And it's equally probably the most rewarding 100-miler, just from the standpoint of it's the original, it's the first, and it's immensely deep in history. So great to be back again here in 2014.
Ronda?
Hi, I'm Ronda Sundermeier. I'm from Portland, Oregon, actually Tiger, which is a little suburb out of Portland. This will be my 5th Western States, and I haven't been back since 2007, so I'm really excited to get the opportunity to run again. And that year was the year I did the slam, so that was super cool for me. And let's see, what else? This will be my 26th 100-miler, I think. It's either 26 or 27. Can't remember, but anyway, this is a super, super special race, and it's unique because it has so many different elements that some hundreds don't have. You got mountains, you got heat, you got some fast running, so you got it all here, so that's really cool. Plus, it's just well organized, super awesome. Really excited to be here.
Tom?
First off, thanks for having me. It's quite an honor. I'm Tom Green. I am from Columbia, Maryland. I am here for my 11th start, hopefully my 10th finish. And I run about 300 ultras, about 45 100-milers. I'm not sure exactly. I can't find all my running logs. They're somewhere in the basement. Probably with my buckles I can't find. So anyway, I'm just going to try to get my 10th.
Thank you, Tom. If I could just take a minute before Nick introduces himself. Tom also ran his first Western States in 1986. 1986, and in that same year also completed the Grand Slam and was the first person to complete the Grand Slam of ultra running, which if my sources are correct, he's attempting to do again this summer. Good luck, Tom, and we are thrilled to have you here. Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Clark. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado, originally from Canterbury, England in the UK. This will be my 5th running of the Western States 100. I ran my first one in 2010, so this will be five on the trot. Western States 2010 was my second 100 miler, so just about a veteran maybe of the sport, but compared to the rest of the panel here, I'm something of a newbie. But you know, I do have a lot of recent memory on the course, and it's great to be here, and thanks very much, Andy, for the invite.
Thrilled to have you here.
Meghan Arbogast. This is my 8th time to Western States. If you include the fire year, it would be my 9th. So I have 7 finishes, and I can't really add much more than what everyone else has said, except it really is my favorite time of the year, and I can't sort of even think what next week is going to be like. It'll be really...
Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from cool California.
Ah, we have a local. Cool California.
I'm now local. I've been riding for most of my life, and it's crazy to think that I would move somewhere because of a race, but it's the truth.
All right, well, thank you. Welcome to the panel. Tonight, I'd like to just get a quick sense of the group. Who in the room is a pacer? Pacers. Okay, we're going to have some advice from pacers. Crews. Good. Runners. Yeah. Okay, runners, stand up. Stand up. Runners, stand up. All right, let's hear it for the runners. And first time Western States runners, stay up. up. Everybody else sit down. First time Western States runners. First time 100-mile runners stay up. All right, congratulations. Welcome. All right. So with that group, we've got pacers, we've got crews, we've got obviously runners. I want to start with a question for the group, and what the group's going to do is just grab the microphones as they see fit and answer these questions as they see fit. We'll have maybe 5 or 6 kind of general questions, take us about a half an hour, 40 minutes, and then open it up to all of your questions. And so the one that I'd like to start with is what to do in the next 36 hours. What pre-race advice do you have as veterans of over 150 100-mile races for what runners, pacers, crews, support teams can do between now, Thursday evening, around 6:45 and 5 a.m. Saturday morning? Any ideas?
As little as possible. Really stay off your feet. Your crew and your pacers are here for you. Use them and reciprocate when you get a chance, but stay inside, stay out of the elements, get a lot of rest, and try not to stress out.
Yeah, I would just add, be cool. I mean, just relax is probably the most important advice over the next 36 hours. Tonight, do your best to get a good night's sleep, and if you don't get a good night's sleep tonight or tomorrow night, don't worry about it. All your sleep is in the bank, all your training is in the bank. You'll talk to people that have put in a lot more miles or a lot less miles than you have. Don't worry about it. And don't get distracted by the conversations. I mean, it's a fine line, right? Because there's so much great energy here. There's so many amazing people to catch the energy. And you want to catch some of that energy, but you want to preserve everything you've got for the trail on Saturday. So be cool, and most importantly, do some things to just keep your mind off the race. Whether it's reading the book, whether it's surfing some internet pages that are unrelated to the race. Just keep your mind calm. Those are always helpful things to do. But most importantly, just keep the mind clean.
Rest. What I like to do is basically sit around and kind of lay motionless. A lot of buddies of mine used to do that 36 hours before Pikes Peak Marathon. It's just about laying motionless, staying hydrated, but not overhydrated. You really don't want to go too crazy with your fluid. That's my opinion, but I mean, if you overhydrate, you're kind of getting rid of your electrolytes too. So be careful with that as far as pounding a ton of water the next couple of days. Drink some, of course, but not too much. Try to eat earlier than you normally do, so when you wake up at, say, 4 o'clock in the morning, everything is normal as you would normally wake up, as opposed to, eating. I eat kind of late normally every night, but when I come to a race like this, I focus on eating earlier so everything's kind of normal on race day. And other than that, I mean, they've summed it up. It's all about rest now. Don't worry about too many shakeout miles. Put your split charts away. It's easy to keep staring at those things, but they don't really mean much. It's really about running on feel and running, within your comfort level on a race like this, or any 100-mile or any 50-miler. If you stay comfortable the first half of the race, your second half will be a lot better. I can assure you on that. It's all about, picking up the carnage the second half. So just think about that, run easy, the next 36 hours, chill out, eat good food, eat healthy, and just try to sleep. Tonight is a really important night to sleep too, because tomorrow night you probably may not sleep as well as you normally do. So tonight is big. Get to bed early, and just wake up early too, just to kind of get used to the time of day. That's really about it. Then just go run, easy, slow.
I just wanted to reiterate what Meghan said. Your crew is extremely important for a lot of us, especially those of us who aren't as strong-willed as a lot of the people who can run just as well without a crew. The race does have very good aid stations, people to take care of you, but in my case, I tend to do my best when I have a good crew, and I've got my wife here and another friend, and it just makes a world of difference to me. So I don't have to do much of anything. They just take over. So
I just had one thing to add of what Karl said about the water. everybody's drinking so much water right now, and what I try to do is I alternate between adding a noon tablet to one of my waters and then going water so that I'm not flushing all my electrolytes out before the race. It's one thing.
Let's move on to crews and pacers, because we've got a room full of those as well. Any advice to the crews and pacers? And more to the point, anything crews and pacers should not do over the next 36 hours and during the race?
It's good to educate your crew on how to get to the aid stations. That'll help. Western is pretty simple, so it's not that complicated. I think it's really important for them to remember that the crew works harder than the runner. It kind of sounds weird, but the runner is like, once the gun goes off, the runner's just doing his thing or her thing, and the crew is like, they meet you at Robinson Flat, and then they have to kind of hurry up and leave and go to the next place. But the crew is all about being efficient, not asking too many questions. I mean, if you have a crew of 5 or 6 people, keep in mind that if you have 5 or 6 people as a runner and you have 5 or 6 crew people asking you questions all the time, it confuses you, and you're all of a sudden, and you're there for 20 minutes. So for crews, keep things simple, have things ready, and then just, and get your runner out of the aid station and get them to go. It's important that even if they walk out of an aid station, as opposed to sitting there and waiting and answering questions and do I need this, do I need that? It's when you ask a runner, like, Karl, do you need gel? Karl, do you need this? Karl, do you need that? And I'm just like, no, I don't need anything. Just focus on one thing, get it done, and then your crew just takes care of the rest and moves on to the next aid station. You just have to have things ready. That's really the most important thing, instead of them fumbling around. They can have a ton of stuff out, but having too many things out for you to look at is almost too confusing. So you keep things really, really simple. So I think of less as more, to a point. But water bottle fillage and all that kind of things should be already done before you get there, so it's real easy. You shouldn't have to really do anything. With my crew, my pit stop is usually never more than a minute. And granted, I'm near the front and they're faster and all that stuff, but it's because when I pull into my crew, I stop, bottles come out of my pack, they go back in my pack, my garbage is empty, my gel is in my pockets, and I'm gone. And it's really simple. You get too technical about things sometimes, it gets confusing, and then you spend more time thinking and worrying more than you really should. You shouldn't have to worry about anything. You get to run all day supported with a crew. So if the crew just has you dialed in, then the rest is easy. 100 miles is not far. Had to say it one time, right?
Yeah, we didn't even get 15 minutes into the thing. Start throwing out Meltzer cliches.
I have a couple tips. First of all, if you're crewing and pacing and maybe it's your first time here or you don't have a lot of experience and for some reason you miss your runner, just remember they are well taken care of all day, and they shouldn't be upset. They might be, but it is their day. But don't worry about it, they're being taken care of. And the other thing, and maybe you already did this, but is when your runner makes their split sheet or their estimated time of arrival, have them do it in the actual time of day versus I'm going to be at Robinson Flat in 7 hours, because someone might forget how to do math. So I think putting down time of day is super helpful.
If you have more than one crew member, I think it's really helpful to give each one of them their job. So you might have one person's in charge of your food. Maybe if you want pictures taken, one person's in charge of that, and then maybe one person's in charge of your lubes and things like that. Because if you have too many people in your food pie or your lube pie, it gets to be, as the runner, you come in and you don't know who's got what. But if you expect, this person to have your body glide, boom, they have it. Or if that person's supposed to have food, they're the ones you go for your foods and fluids.
I might better add something before my crew asks this question in public. Don't be afraid to be tough on your runner when they start getting weak. One case in particular, I got into the car at Wasatch at 89 miles. I was an hour ahead of the next runner. I was in 5th place. I vaguely remember them driving off with me in the car. They couldn't get me out, and I just wasn't in the frame of mind, so I regret that to this day. They should have just pulled me out of the car and dumped me in the road. I could have walked in the rest of the way probably and still held my position, but I just wasn't prepared to go on, and they didn't want to be too mean, so just keep that in mind.
I would just add to that. It really is, you know, a lot of runners likely, all of you that are running Western States likely have a game plan in your mind, a pace that you want to be on. You've probably shared that pace with your crew and with your pacers. And, you know, if you have a great day, if you have a solid day out there, you may actually run exactly what you thought. You may even run better than you thought. But chances are in 100 miles, at some point in the day, that pace chart is going to go up in flames. And as a crew, you've got to have, you know, you've also got to be, I guess, flexible the same way a runner needs to be flexible when the game plan goes awry, and be encouraging when that happens. And you know, I in 2001, I was flying over a lot for the Western States, and I came over on jet lag, and my signature move was spending way too much time at Michigan Bluff. And I think one year in 2001, I think I spent an hour in Michigan Bluff, ready to call it a day. And to your point, my crew kicked me out of there and said, you can't drop here. They just did too much help for you at this aid station. I said, okay, I'll just go to Forest Hill and that'll be my day there. I ended up running the fastest last 45 miles of my life at Western States and finishing 21 hours. So, you know, you can get it back, and your crew and your pacers in a lot of cases have everything to do with that, but flexibility would be one thing I would just say. Really stay flexible as a crew member and encouraging, even if your runner starts to come off their expectations.
Yeah, I'll just add, is this mine that's humming?
There we go.
Yeah, so I'll just add one last thing on crews and paces. As a runner, you know, remember that your crew, your pacer, you know, they're all sacrificing to be out here for you. Use that as motivation, you know, when you're at mile 70 and, you know, things just suck and it's terrible and you want to quit, you know, these guys have come a long way. They sacrificed a lot to be out here for you. So, you know, just remember that when it's hurting out there, and, you know, use that as motivation and do it for them. Finish the race for them. You know, if you need to use that motivation, then do that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm going to add two little tidbits on that. Crews in the room, you're likely to spend 7, 8, 10 times as much time hanging out waiting for your runner than actually tending to your runner. And what I encourage you to do, especially at a race like this, especially in a garden spot like Michigan Bluff, and by the way, Michigan Bluff is a true garden spot. I can understand why Topher would have hung out there for an hour. It's beautiful, beautiful. But hang out and talk to the other crews, seriously. And if you happen to take a look at someone across the driveway and you see, well, that crew seems to have their act together, you know, there's nothing wrong with kind of stealing some ideas and poaching some stuff off and making up, you know, making an excuse to talk to them and ask them, so what are you going to do when your runner gets in? Because you're going to have a lot of time hanging out, and there's a lot of cool people out here, and you can really enjoy the experience in that way. The thing I'd say about pacers is the pacer-runner relationship is a really, really unique one. It's not like a marriage, but it's not like a brother and sister either. It's kind of somewhere in between. The love between the two can be traumatic, and it can be quite harmonious, all in the course of, say, 4 or 5 miles. So it's the pacers. It's the pacer's job to feel that dynamic. I don't think you'll feel it in your loins like you might in a legitimate relationship, but you'll feel it somewhere, and you'll feel it along the way, and as you do, it might make sense to just respond to it and go with that flow, because it can be a meaningful experience for both of you if you do that. All right, so inevitably, for all of us all 399 of us, there will be problems on Saturday. Some will be big, some will be little, some will be tiny that will seem huge. Some will result in pity parties and all kinds of excuses and other things like that. I know, even with the esteemed group we have at the panel before you, there have been problems. I want to hear one major problem that each of you have had in a 100-miler and how you dealt with it and what you learned from it. We're going down the line because none of you get away with this. We'll start with you, Karl.
Back in Hard Rock a few years ago, someone put a couch on my back about mile 70. It's kind of funny, but I kind of went into a bad patch where I had a little low. I wasn't eating quite enough, and I got really tired, obviously, and I was slogging out of Sherman, which is mile 70, a long 4,000-foot climb. And I said to myself, Karl, you're just finish the race. Just doesn't really matter where you finish. It doesn't matter how you do. You'll be more satisfied with finishing the race, regardless of what your time is. And a lot of times, it would have been so easy to turn around and say, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going home. I feel better. I'm getting in the car. I'm getting back to Silverton. But I just talked myself out of stopping. And regardless of how slow my time was that day, which wasn't that bad, but it was a tough last 30 miles. But I slogged it out. When I crossed that finish line, it was one of my most satisfying 6,300-mile finishes I've ever had because I toughed it out. And believe it, this is a 36-hour event, right? We start Saturday morning, the thing's over on Sunday afternoon. And if you just keep your head in the game, you're going to have low patches, high patches. You can always unbonk. You can always get out of it. Finishing is what really matters. That should be number one priority. It's not about your split times. It's not about how fast you are. If you fall behind your splits, big deal. So what? So you go a little slower. You still finish. And that finish, the reward is the buckle. The reward is the satisfaction that you can't do it. And then you come back the second time and everything is so much easier. It's always going to be hard, but it's always easier the second time. So remember that, blink and boom, it'll be over. Even you have all these hard times in between, but you will, when you cross the line, you're going to be happy. And if you dropped out, you're going to say, man, I really probably could have kept going. And that's one of those things that, I've dropped out of a few races too, and every time I've done that, it's like, man, why didn't I just keep going? You just have to keep your head in the game. You will have low patches. It will hurt. It's going to hurt, no doubt about it, but you just have to talk yourself out of it. And that time at Hard Rock, I talked myself out of dropping out, and I felt really, really good when I was done. It didn't really matter what my time was. So it's all right. It's all between your ears, really, just like golf.
Topher?
So, probably my Achilles heel in 100-mile running is are my guts. Normally, there's a saying that you're only as strong as your guts on any given day, and normally it's not my legs that are failing me, but somehow it's my stomach. And for me, I gave an example back there in 2001 where my guts came unraveled on the climb up to Mission Bluff, and I was absolutely encouraged by other runners and by my crew to keep going. And one of the things I learned that day, more than any other day in kind of running 100 milers, it was a big breakthrough for me because I had gone into the deepest, darkest low. I was convinced that by vomiting and losing all of my fluids, my food, there was nothing left of me. There was no possible way to continue on. And I just recalibrated the entire day, much the same way Karl talks about. You shift gears, you throw your timesheet out, and you run from aid station to aid station. And you just, it's about refocusing when things really, really go bad. It's about refocusing and taking the long distance and just scaling it much closer and taking it in small bite sizes. And I would say probably the single biggest learning, probably 2 words I would say came out of that particular day. And one was resolve. If you have the resolve and determination to go through exactly the pain you may feel in your legs and the pain you may feel in your guts, unless you are doing material long-term damage. If you're just pulling up because your stomach feels bad or because your legs are just tired, don't stop. Don't stop. And it's about having that resolve. The 100-mile distance requires that additional amount of effort and determination to get to Auburn. And the second word I would say that I learned that day was patience. The race is not to Michigan Bluff. It's not to the top of the escarpment. It's not to Forest Hill. It's not to the river. The run finishes in Auburn. And it really doesn't matter where you are and how fast you're running, anywhere between here and the finish line. And that requires patience, whether you're a top 10 runner or whether you're going for 30 hours. Embrace the time. You have 30 hours to just soak up the energy of the Western States and use every second of it, and don't give up.
I would say my biggest issue happens to be cold, but since we aren't going to have that here, I don't do well in the cold. So when the cold happens, my body shuts down. But that's a different issue. But when I first started running ultras in the early 90s, this old guy kind of took me under his wing, and he'd been around for a really long time, and he said, I have 2 pieces of advice for you. If the bone ain't showing, get going. And everything, including your earlobe, is going to hurt. So I thought, oh, wow. I didn't really understand what that really meant, but it's exactly true. Things on your body will hurt that should not hurt, but it will go away if you just have patience. You will move through it, and oftentimes you'll be in a situation where you have blisters that are killing you, they pop, you think you're never going to walk again, but then you're over it. They just sort of disappear because something else shows up. Or it doesn't. It may just completely go away, and you may have a great last 20 miles of the race. So the other thing that I am equipped with, and I've had to use it once before, I came into a race with a fairly decent injury that was healing. I decided I was going to do it anyway, but it started to hurt really bad. I had pulled or torn a muscle right above my knee. I had finished the race with ice bags, completely ace bandaged around my quads, and so basically from my calf all the way up my thigh, because I was completely destroyed there. And I ended up having to do that from 50 miles on, and came from 7th place to setting a course record with ice bags attached to my legs. So there are things that you can do, and there's so many aid stations here that you can have a situation like that and then be done with it soon. You don't have to wait 20 miles for it to be over. And the other thing I would say is give yourself, no matter how your stomach feels, give yourself till the night or till the dark, till it cools off. Things change from this heat of the day till the cooling off at night. Your body changes. So if nothing else, and you feel like you're not going to make it, just give yourself that time to get to the dark or the cool temperatures, and things will turn around for you. So stick with it.
I have so many runs where things have gone wrong. I'm struggling to find one single one. But one particular year here at Western States, I had a bad cold. A friend had taken me rock climbing the week before, and I came down with a bad cold. Going into the race, I spent several days in bed prior to the run. But during the run, when I got to the last chance aid station, or a dusty corner actually, I was so far behind where I had expected to be. I was barely ahead of the cutoffs, and I met my crew. They tried to cheer me up, but I wanted to drop, but they convinced me just to take it one more aid station. They said that they would meet me at Michigan Bluff and I could reevaluate there. By the time I got to last chance, I started feeling better. I was the last person to get through last chance that finished the race. I was dead last at that point. But by the time I got to Michigan Bluff, I started feeling so much better. And by the time I got to the river, I mean, just everything just started going better and better. I finished right at 28 hours. And I'm just so glad that my crew just convinced me to keep going. So, and it's happened at least 3 times at Western States where I can specifically say that my crew and pacers were the ones that got me through. So just never give up. Another time at Wasatch, I wanted to drop at the halfway point. And, but for some reason I just decided to keep going, and just felt better and better. I went from 42nd place halfway and ended up catching the 2nd place runner at 87 miles. So you just never can count yourself out, and the crew really needs to be aware that you have an awesome responsibility to try to keep your runner motivated. Even lie to them if you can. One year my wife kept telling me, "Oh, you're looking so good, you're looking good." And I knew better, but I mean, it's encouraging that she had confidence in me. And later on in the race, when a running friend had dropped out, he saw me along the way and he said, "Tom, word's out, you're looking like crap. What's wrong?" So lie if you have to, but just don't give up on yourself. Just keep going.
Nick?
Yeah, you know, like Tom, I'm trying to think of a 100-mile race. I think I've done 12 now, where everything has gone right. I've had the perfect race, and it just hasn't happened. And I think if any 100-miler is honest, I mean, maybe they'll say they had close to a perfect race. But, you know, things are going to go wrong. For me, typically, it's my stomach. I'll get through the first 50 to 60 miles, I'll be feeling great, the gels will be going down, the energy's good, and then boom, all of a sudden, you know, my stomach says, no, we're done. So, you know, as others have said, you know, when that happens, it's time to start problem solving. For me, I can't get solids down, I can't get gels down. So I'll be running with 2 bottles. 1 bottle will be water, 1 bottle will be Coke. You know, anybody who's had Coke or, you know, any kind of soda or out of an aid station, you know, you get that quick burst of energy and it's great. You know, and then it's gone. 5 minutes later, you're back into that slump, and God, you know, it's like running through a quagmire. But you know, if you have a bottle of Coke, then you can keep feeding that energy. And you know, like we said, you know, there's 20 aid stations on the course here out at Western States, so you can fill that bottle up every however long it takes you to get the 4 or 5 miles to the next aid station. And of course, you know, when it does start sucking and you want to quit, it's really just keep the momentum going. It doesn't matter how slowly you're moving, keep moving forward. If you're not moving forward, you're not moving any closer to that finish line. And just remember, you know, as much as it sucks, it will stop sucking. But you need to get to the finish line in order for it to stop sucking. So just keep moving forward.
I've had 7 perfect races. I don't have a lot of problems. I guess the one typical one I face are blisters. And it's one of those things, I'm pretty stubborn in general, and I will feel a hot spot coming and ignore it. And that's a really bad thing to do, but that's part of my stubbornness. But it's cost me time for sure, because it will turn into a blister, and then even if I get it fixed, I'm hobbling, walking downhill, and generally pretty miserable. And I still, to this day, have to convince myself that I have to take care of my feet before the race, it might take all of 30 minutes to tape them up, but it could save you hours of time. So my point really is, any issue that you have, when you feel it at the beginning, no matter what it is, if it's a hot spot where you feel a little bit nauseous, or salt's starting to sound a little good, pay attention to those things and address them immediately. If you have anything to clean your feet off with before you get to aid station, go ahead and do it. Take off your shoes and socks and wipe your feet up and get going again. If you have salt with you and that sounds like a good thing, then do it. But address things as soon as you can so it doesn't turn into a disaster.
All right, great. I don't think I should get away with not having to answer this one either. I suffer really from the holy trinity of ultra running maladies, which are things in my feet and my quads and my stomach. With the feet, as Meghan said, pay attention the first minute you feel something. If it feels like a pebble in your shoe, if it feels like your sock is folding over, taking a minute to straighten that out at mile 18 is so much better than spending, 3 hours on the podiatrist table and whatever else you have to do. Your quads are going to hurt. Crews, listen carefully. Your runner will come in at some point through the canyons and say, my quads are just shot. What you do is you turn to them and say, everybody's quads are shot. And just push them out. And the stomach. Show of hands of people in the room who really, really love to vomit. I've never in my life heard anybody say, yes, I'm so excited to puke last night. It's terrible, it's miserable, but you'll do it. Half the runners in this room will puke on Saturday. And that's just the reality. What you need to do, what the test of you will be what you do after you puke. Because I think we're programmed from an early age. Our body and our mind say, puke, I'm miserable. I'm puking, I'm miserable. And the more you puke, the more miserable you get. Now, the deep dark secret is sometimes you puke, you get a beautiful 15 minutes of absolute euphoria. Don't let that fool you, though. That's the time to replenish your salt, get a little sip off a gel, do something to get stuff back in there, and move along. But crews especially, be aware of the feet, the quads, and the stomach, because everyone's feeling it. Some more than others, some more significantly than others, but everybody's feeling it. Even these guys up in the front. I want to see if there are questions in the room. If you have questions for specific members of the panel or just general questions, if you could just stand up and ask them, we will take them as they come. Right here.
I don't know how often people take salt tablets. I took them in the Memorial Weekend, and I don't know how regularly people might advise to take them.
Salt cap advice.
Yeah, I run on a combination of energy gels and S-caps. So I'll take S-caps kind of through the heat of the day, 1 to 2 an hour, kind of through the heat of the day, and then I'll try to eat some savory or salty type of solid foods at the major aid stations. Might be a rice and meat burrito that my wife is making for me. It might be a ham and cheese sandwich, something salty, small savory snacks to supplement the sugar. And I just find that, and I'm similar to AJW and Nick in that my stomach is it's a delicate balance, and I find that the S-caps really do help me through, especially through those canyons, and also throttling back through those canyons can absolutely help. Your race is not won or lost in those canyons, well, it's not won in those canyons. It's certainly lost in those canyons if you punch it too hard. So I'm a believer of S-caps.
I'm kind of ditto what Topher said too, but one of the things I just talk about with, I use salt stick caps, it's a pretty close formula to S-caps, but instead of taking 2 at a time, try to take them more frequently. So say your formula is 1 per hour. For me, generally speaking, if it's 75 degrees out, kind of a regular day, 1 per hour is about standard. As it cools down in the evening, I'll spread that out to 1 every maybe hour, 20 minutes. When it's hotter like it would be in Western, I think last year when I was here, it was like one of the hotter years, so I was probably taking them 1 per hour for the first couple hours. It got hotter, so I dropped it to every 45 minutes, and I dropped it to every 40 minutes throughout the day, and then as it got cool in the evening, I backed off the throttle again. So it was like more frequently as it gets hotter, then you take it back again. And for me, that works really well, and I do energy gels too, so I'm getting some salt like that. But the real equalizer, something that really, if my stomach is a little off, is bouillon. Any kind of, whether it's chicken bouillon, veggie bouillon, or whatever, that salty coating in your belly to me is like God in a cup. And that stuff is, it really makes a big difference. You know, a little bit of noon too, maybe at aid stations, really cold, and a little Red Bull, those types of things all kind of add to my formula. But the salt thing is, you know, you don't want to take a ton of them to think that's really the ticket. You'll get kind of backed up. So in 1 per hour, and then Western brings it back to 1 every 30 minutes when the hottest time of day. And I think this year is not the hottest year. You know, I mean, it's going to be kind of like a regular year, I suppose, right? So you just kind of have to just more frequently instead of 2 at a time to overload yourself all at once. But everyone's different too, so it really changes for everyone. But that's just how the formula works for me.
I'm actually a little bit the opposite because I'm not a huge sweater and I'm pretty small and my body doesn't love all those caplets. So I do use E-caps in high country, but I only do them about 1 every hour and a half. And then I will chew on noon tablets instead of drinking them because I don't want a bunch more liquids in my body, and it dissolves in my mouth, it breaks up all that that fizziness. It's a little weird, but just little bites of it, breaks up all the junk that's stuck, all the gels, and it is immediately quick. And then I also use regular salt, and then when we get to the heat, the canyons, I do use S-caps about 1 every hour and a half, and then continue my regular salt and the noon, and then at night I go back to the E-caps program, just because when I dissolved 20 of those caplets in water and the giant ball of jelly, my stomach just doesn't do well with all those caplets in my body, so that's how I do it.
Any other questions? Yes, right here.
Can I ask for advice for a first-time slammer?
Yeah, let's start with Nick and then go to Tom. Nick ran a slam last year.
Yeah. So I was a first-time slammer last year. You know, I don't think really. I think you should treat this race as if it was a one-time deal. You know, treat this race as if you're running this race and you don't have any other races. You know, race it. But between Western States and Vermont, the key is really recovery. That is your absolute priority, is to recover your body. So high protein diet in that first week to really start the rebuilding process in your muscles. Certainly don't fret about any kind of training stimulus in the 4 weeks, I'm not sure, between Western States and Vermont. You know, if it's going to ease your mind a little bit to get out there and do some shakeout runs in that second week, then go ahead and do that, but certainly don't overdo it. And really, you know, the fitness that you have now is going to be your peak fitness, and you're going to ride that for the rest of the summer. So once you're done with Western States, it's just a process of race, recover, and repeat. So really focus on the recovery and don't sweat any kind of training benefit between races.
All right, and Tom, back all the way to 86.
Yeah, a long time ago. I do have to agree with Nick. Recovery is the key. Now, in my case, I was running each race a little more conservatively than I normally would have. I wasn't very experienced when I did the slam. I'd only completed one 100-miler before I attempted the slam. So I was very conservative, at Old Dominion, the first race, and wanted to be absolutely sure that I wasn't going to trash my legs by the end of the race. The year that I did the slam, there was about 12 of us committed to doing it. Only 6 made it through the first race. People weren't very smart in the way that they ran, but only those that showed up at Western States were so, they were still recovering blisters or whatever, that I was the only one to get through that. So don't kill yourself in the first race. But I personally know John, and he's much more prepared than me today, and what I was, so I don't have any doubt that he's going to make it. But
Thanks. Thank you, Tom. Any other questions?
I don't have a question.
You don't have a question?
But I wanted to give some advice to crew.
Okay, absolutely. This is Cheryl, Karl's spouse.
Make sure you take care of yourself, because you can't take care of your runner if you don't take care of yourself. You need to eat, you need to stay hydrated, you just need to take care of yourself. You're going to be rushing, you're going to be thinking about everything else. You got to take care of yourself.
I want to second that too. Whoever's a pacer, same deal. If you're pacing from Forest Hill to the river or something like that, just because you have a 3 to 4 hour whatever section, how long it takes, you need to eat too. You can do all these things for your runner, and in the lightest way you can do all these things, but if you don't take care of yourself, you will bunk. And I've dropped pacers in the past, and that's because they would not eat. They were like, Karl, do this, Karl, do that. And that was, I haven't had a pacer for 10 years, but that was way back when. But at the same time, that is really important. The same with the crew, like Cheryl said, the same with the crew thing. You guys aren't eating, and she's experienced it where she'll crew for me and not eat lunch. Have you eaten today? No, I had a piece of cheese. Like, eat something. Would you like one of my gels? So it is, it's really important. That keeps you focused too. That keeps you positive. All the words that come out of the crew must be positive, not negative. Not say, oh, it's your legs are sore, save it for Wasatch, or save it for Vermont. No, it's your legs are sore, everyone else's are sore. So, you've got to stay positive all the time. And if you can just do that, it's like talking to the media, you don't talk negative about anything, you talk positive. And if you can keep your runner always thinking positive, he will persevere and get to the finish line. And you're part of that too, taking care of yourself at the same time.
Absolutely. A couple of course-specific things on that, by the way. You're going to leave here after your runner starts and drives west on I-80, and you're going to get off at that Forest Hill Road exit. There's a big, beautiful Rayleigh shopping center right there. You can get anything you need. Pete's Coffee in there, or there's a burrito shop. You can do all that. There's merchants up in Forest Hill as well, so make sure you stock yourselves up, crews and pacers especially. And pacers, if people can crew, you don't need to go to all the extra places. Stay rested, stay in the shade. If you're a pacer, take care of yourself and be ready when go time comes, whether it's Forest Hill or the River 49, so that you're on track. Thank you, Cheryl, for saying that. Any other questions in the crowd? Here we go, yes?
I heard about taping for blisters. Is there anything else you can do for prevention, or just something you just expect to have at the end of the day?
Any thoughts on blister prevention?
You want to keep your feet dry, which is going to be impossible. So if you feel like you're prone, then you can have dry socks and shoes and drop bags that are going to be as close to whatever water crossing that you went through. You're going to have 3 crossings where your feet are going to get completely wet. So there's one option. If you get dirt in between your skin and your shoe, they're going to get abraded and likely to get blisters, so gaiters can help with that. And just, hopefully you know that your shoes fit you correctly.
You'll get a lot of, one quick advice, if you've got a blister that's really bothering you, don't stop to fix it until you get to an aid station. There's not a lot you can do out there in between aid stations other than clear your shoes of debris, and you'll burn time because you'll just be at an aid station again doing the same thing. So, changing your shoes and socks if you know you're prone to blisters, and And if there's great support at the aid stations. They can tape your feet if you need to, but also know that that's, you can run through blisters as well. I mean, you can run through the blisters, and that's okay too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just one quick thing. I mean, I don't generally suffer from blister problems too much, but one thing I always do, at least I've done the last 4 years at Forest Hill, is to change shoes and socks. You're going to come out of Volcano Canyon, your feet. Is the creek running down?
Yeah, it would be wet.
Okay. So anyway, you'll have had wet feet for a long time, and honestly, the minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it takes to get a fresh pair of socks on, even a fresh pair of shoes for the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes until your feet get wet again. It's like a new lease on life. You feel like $1 million. So Forest Hill, change your shoes and socks.
Appreciate the question. One anecdotal story on that. Back in 2009, I ran Western States and then Hard Rock a few weeks later and had really bad blisters here that year for whatever reason. And around the track at the finish line that year was a fellow by the name of John Vonhoff. I think many of you might know John or know of John or have read John's book, Fixing Your Feet, which I immediately purchased, and he gave my wife and I some advice on that. John will be out at Michigan Bluff, as well as a team of podiatrists, and if you are suffering from pretty significant foot issues, they can fix you up pretty well. There, you'll scrub some time, but it'll be worth it. So know that those guys will be out there. It's a really important part of the Western States medical team is the foot care group in Michigan Bluff. Any other questions before we wrap up? Right here, yeah.
What's the winning time going to be?
Predictions on the winning time for the men or the women?
The men.
For the men. Anyone want to take a stab at the men's winning time? Clarky?
Let's see here. The Masters men's winning time.
It's going to be 15:44. I'll answer that.
43, Andy. Thanks. I'm going to say 15:03. We're not going under 15 this year.
It's going to be pretty fast.
How about the women's winning time?
Low 18s.
Low 18s. There you have it. Anything else? Yes?
I can just add on the foot question that I've had foot powder help prevent a hot spot from turning into a blister. So I'm not so sure it would work with soaking wet feet, but I've stopped along the trail, poured the powder in, and had it not turn into anything.
Thank you for that. Any other? Yes, right here.
I have one persnickety pacer question. There's no muling. You're not getting anything. But if I've got something in my pack and we're at an aid station where he's got a drop bag and whatnot, could I give him batteries or whatever, something like that? Probably goes correct.
Hang on, the batteries are in his drop bag, or the batteries are in your
Same with
pack?
something that I had in my bag, but it's an aid station where he's got crew access or something and a drop bag. What's the moral?
Maybe I'll address it just to the argument. Is it muling if a pacer provides aid to a runner in an aid station?
From his bag.
From his pack. That's crewing.
But what if he carried that battery from, say, Michigan Bluff to Forest Hill? Then he carried it for him from Michigan Bluff.
Or what if he's doing this at an aid station where there's no crew access?
Yeah. Then
That's
muling.
muling.
That's muling.
That would be muling.
That would be muling.
But if
Yeah. And keep in mind, too, there are several spots on the course where crew access is available as you're running. Bottom of Bath Road to the corner of Forest Hill Road and Cal Street, Green Gate, from the river crossing far side to Green Gate, and of course from Roby Point to the finish. I'd like to close with first I want to say a few final words, but I want to thank our 6 panelists for taking time out of here. someone to hitch on to who's almost a sure bet to finish on Saturday, I wouldn't look much further than these 6, because they'll be happily coming around the track at some point between, say, 8 p.m. Saturday and 11 a.m. Sunday. I also want to finish with a challenge for all of you, pacers, crews, and especially runners, this year. And since you came to this event, and thank you for that, by the way, I get a chance to lay down a challenge. And I think you'll appreciate it. Of the many frustrations I have about modern life as a runner and a father and a husband and a school administrator, I think perhaps the greatest frustration I have with modern life is how we are expected, and pretty much the world demands of us that we do lots of different things all at once. That our attention is spread in ways that perhaps 2 generations ago our grandparents never would have imagined it being stretched. And I think it's not good. On Saturday, we all have a chance to go to the other side of the boat on that. To only do one thing all day long. Whether we're running, whether we're pacing, whether we're crewing. We can turn our phones off, we can turn our computers off, we can turn our minds off. We don't turn our minds off very much anymore. And we can run, walk, hike, crew, pace with our heart, and only our heart. That's what this event's been about for 41 years. When Gordy jumped off that horse and ran that 100 miles, he did it with his heart. And thousands of us have done it that way since. And it's hard. It's getting harder. But if there's one place to do it on one day, it's between Squaw Valley and Auburn on the last Saturday in June. I really believe it. This is a very, very special event. Craig and John and the board and the thousands, over 1,000 volunteers that are part of this event, part of the year-round planning and execution of this event. That's what they want from us. They want us to have this once-in-a-lifetime experience on Saturday. Personalizing it for a second, and I think most of you in the room probably know that this is perhaps what I'm more passionate about than anything else in my life. I am going to savor that day on Saturday, and I implore all of you to do the same, because this is an event that's larger than any one person. It's larger than any one idea. And being out here, being here right now, 36 hours before that gun is fired, is truly a gift. And what we do with that gift, what these 6 of the people up here are going to do with this gift, and what all of you are going to do with this gift, is all going to make you better people. And that, I think, is reason enough to get out there and get from Squaw Valley to Auburn. And we'll have a big old party at the end. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thanks again to the panelists. And we'll see you all tomorrow at the pre-race briefing and on Saturday morning out of the stuff.